element, and in general any kind of structure without application.
Technology, we need to work, I can say 360 degrees. I mean, it's not enough to go to the contractor, means the flooring applicator or the concrete supplier, but we need to involve all the different actors on the job site. That means starting from the investor, means the owner of the structure, to explain him the advantages of this kind of technology for his daily work in future. On the other hand, we also need to involve in the loop the designer, because with our system we change a bit the way the engineers design the structure, because we change the design of the joint. We can change in some way also the calculation of the reinforcement, because our proposal is to use fibers instead of normal reinforcement. We need cooperation of the contractor and the floor installer, because we need to play with him to have the right workability and the right application and the right tuning. And finally, we need to deal also with the concrete supplier, because all our fixtures must be, I can say, must be added to the concrete in the batching plant to have the better homogeneity possible. Just a picture of what we did since now. As I told, our first experiences were in 2005, and the first big job site probably was in 2006. These numbers are updated till end of last year, more or less. And we did more than 7 million square meters all around Europe. That means more or less 1.4 million of cubic meter. And if we calculate all the admixture and fibers we sold on all the project, we can easily pass 40 million euro of turnover. Before I was just showing some name of potential customer, or now I can say real customer. At the end of last year, we did more than 900,000 square meters of Mapecrete System with Amazon, more than 600,000 square meters with IKEA, and 50,000 with Microsoft, 60,000 with Nestlé, plus I can say hundred of small or smaller job site with normal companies, and not only big players, but also a lot of normal plants and production. But let's go on the technical part. I mean, before joints every 4 to 5 meters to have less possible cracks and to provide some horizontal movement of of the slab. On the other hand, it is important to have the isolation of the structure from the rigid part of our building. It means to separate the slab from the walls and also from the pillars. And then it is also important to provide the correct construction joint, to define exactly the casting area and to bond in the correct way the two slabs we will cast. And with our system, we can say that we can provide a structure without joint, without cracks, and then at the end more durable, as we told at the beginning. Just as an example, this can be a normal slab floor. Then if we cut in the normal way, the old way, we can say we cut the joint every 5 meters. And then at the end, we need to create 420 meters of joint, and we have 26 point where the joint cross each other, where we can have problems with the edge of the joint, where we can have coupling, etc. On the other hand, with our technology, we can produce the same dimension, the same slab, without any kind of joint. It means that we only need to take care of 140 meters of construction joint that are exactly the same we need to take care also in the traditional way. And then, as you can see, with this technology, we can save some money, obviously, avoiding to cut all the joint, but more important, we avoid all the weak points that are in this kind of design, I can say. Well, what we need to produce Mapecrete system, we need, I can say, the right cocktail between our different products. And then for sure, we need to add to our concrete a super plasticizer from our dynamo system. We need to add some Mapecrete, means expanding agents. We need to add some Mapecure SMA, the shrinkage reducing agent, and we can use Mapefibers instead of the non-propellant reinforcements. It's important to underline on this point that the system works very well with polymeric fibers, but it also works very well with steel fibers, but also with normal reinforcements. And then, under this point of view, we can say that is a kind of universal technology. Then, why very quickly, because I think all of you know a bit the basics of concrete technology. Why we use a super plasticizer? We use a super plasticizer, obviously, to optimize our mix design. If we use a super plasticizer, we can reduce the water, and then we can reduce the shrinkage of our cement phase. If we reduce the water, we can increase the quantity of aggregates in our concrete, and then once again we can reduce the shrinkage. And then is one of the points of our system. We can choose choose in a better way in our range which dynamo to use. We need obviously a product that is in a high range water reducing. We need, according with the local weather, we can use a different product to achieve the right workability retention. We can use, I think it's not your case, but we can use a specific product to work in a cold weather. It's a product with some accelerating effect on setting and hardening times. Or, on the other hand, we can use product with extended workability retention to balance problems due to hot weather. Okay? And then the choice of the specific dynamo product is a choice that can be done job site by job site according with the specific need of each application. As a second element, we use Mapecrete. Mapecrete is an expansive agent to compensate the shrinkage of the normal shrinkage of concrete outwards. You can see the bottom curve is the normal shrinkage curve of Portland cement. And then you can see the first phase when you normally have wet curing. The concrete stay around 0, and then as soon as you start the normal curing, means without water, you have a shrinkage in your cement phase. And if this shrinkage is fast and huge, I can say we will have for sure cracks in our slab. When we add our concrete, our Mapecrete, what happens? In the first phase, we have an expansion. Then you don't have a stable situation, but the concrete will expand. We are speaking about 300-400 microns per meter. And then don't expect to see a concrete like a souffle or a change shape or other thing. And then as you start also with this concrete with the normal exposure, you will have also in this case shrinkage, but starting from a higher point, your shrinkage at the end will remain around 0. Sorry. And then you will not have cracks in your slab. The third element, we use one Mapecrete SRA from our range, and then the shrinkage reducing agent works on the capillary tension of water inside the cement paste. Changing this tension, we can reduce a lot the evaporation of the water from the slab. Okay? And then you can see here, if we don't use SRA, we can have something like around 700 microns of shrinkage in our concrete. And then adding more and more SRA, you can see this curve, how the shrinkage reduces. But the trick, I can say, of our system is the synergy between expansive agent and Mapecrete SRA. And here you can see quite well what I mean. The bottom line is the reference concrete. That means a normal concrete that after 3 months of curing arrives around 600 microns of shrinkage. If we use SRA 25, SRA 25 is the Italian product specific for flooring. You can see less shrinkage, and then at the end you have more than 20% reduction of the final shrinkage. If you use only Mapecrete, we can see at the beginning the expansion and then the shrinkage curve is exactly as the one of the reference concrete. If you see here 400 microns versus 600, means 200 microns different, that is exactly the expansion of the concrete at the beginning. Okay? But if we use the two solutions, Mapecrete plus SLL, together in our concrete, what happens? We have more expansion at the beginning. Seems not a lot, 100 microns, but is 50% more than the one with Mapecrete. And then you have a different shrinkage curve. And then after the 3 months, you can arrive in the range of plus minus 100 microns. That means 1/6 of the shrinkage of the normal concrete. But another key point is between the 7 and the 28 days, because when the concrete shrink, you have some tension in the paste, not in the cement paste. And then if this tension is higher than the tensile strength of the concrete, you have a crack opening. But if you have a very low shrinkage in this period, the tension will remain lower than the tensile strength, and then you will not have a crack opening. This is the key point of the system. After the 28 days, probably the tensile strength will be much higher than the tension, and then I expect after 1 month not to have any other problem of crack opening. Okay? Is it clear since now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Good. Then we were speaking about fibers. As I was saying before, the system works very well with normal reinforcement, but also with steel fibers and polymeric fibers. Obviously, we as Mapecrete, we are producer of polymeric fibers, and then in our proposal, that the fibers are always present. Here can also be a sustainability point. I mean, if we use polymeric fibers instead of a normal steel reinforcement or steel fibers, we can claim that we can produce much less CO2, and then that our structure will impact less on the environment, and then the CO2 contribution of our slab can be much lower. But to arrive to the correct point, we need some basic conditions. Means absolutely wet curing for 7 days after the casting, because all our technologies works in wet environment. If we don't provide water or curing compound or other solutions on the surface, the expansive agent will not work. And then we will have for sure more cracks than the normal. Okay? And the second point is the reinforcement. Doesn't matter, as I told, if rebars or fibers, but reinforcement.
Sorry, Gianluca. May I disturb you because I have a question here. Can you go back to the previous slide? I would like to make more clear about the wet curing here. You mean wet curing is mean you water or any chemical?
Well, the better, the ideal wet curing, honestly, is water. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm not speaking about our turnover. I'm speaking as a technician. Okay? Then the best And obviously, nobody can come or work on the surface for the first 7 days with this solution. But technically speaking, this is the best, okay? If you cannot provide this kind of solution for any reason, we can use the curing compound. But, you know, with water, we are water and plastic on top, we are sure we have 100% of water retention. With curing compound, it depends on the product, but the water retention can be between 50 and 70%. And then in some situation can create problem. Depends also on the weather. If you have a very dry and weather with high temperature and also some wind, probably the curing compound will not be enough, honestly. As a technician, I repeat, I'm not looking to our turnover at this moment.
Okay.
Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, good. Then we already told about curing. Why we absolutely need some internal reinforcement? Because we need to have a restriction to the expansion. I mean, with our Mapecrete, we provide expansion, but this expansion must not be a free expansion. We need to block in some way this expansion to create a kind of press into the concrete. Okay? Why? Because if we have a free expansion, then we will have also a free shrinkage. If we have this press situation where the concrete tries to expand but is not allowed by the reinforcement, when the shrinkage will start, this press situation will go down to the neutral situation, and then you will not have press. This is a bit more difficult to explain, but it is one of the key points once again. To try to help our customer and the designer to create the right concrete and the right environment for our floor, we prepared and we developed some software that can be used together with our customer to prepare the right design of concrete. I don't want to go too much in deep in this moment with the calculation, but what is important is that this software is based on international norms and rules. And then the standard method to calculate or to predict the shrinkage of our concrete is based on ASTM C157. And then we go ahead with the calculation according with Eurocode. Okay? In this way, if we make the simulation of the standard shrinkage of our concrete, that is here, we provide our input about mechanical strength, water cement ratio, ratio between aggregate and cement. We give the joint spacing and we give the slab thickness. We can arrive at the end to have a theoretical shrinkage of our slab. And then starting from the theoretical calculated in lab, providing the correction factor start from this number to add our solution and our product to mitigate this shrinkage. And then in this example, with 20 kg of Mapecrete and 5 kg of SLA, we can expect theoretically 100 microns of shrinkage. And then if we update this number with the correct factor due to the slab characteristics, we can expect on our job site, on our slab, a real shrinkage of 65 microns after 6 months of curing. Okay? And then the software makes some calculation to check the service limit state, to check the assessment for the carpet cracks, and also to check, as I was saying before, if the stress, the tension in the concrete able to create the cracks is lower than the concrete, the tensile strength of the concrete. If all these numbers are okay, are in green, we can say that our floor, our calculation is verified, and then we can expect on our job site a slab without cracks. Can I go ahead?
Yes.
Yes.
I know it's not so easy in a few minutes, but
okay.
Now in case in the coming weeks we can have a session, a specific session with the technicians, with Federico on our side, Federico Rossi, to go more in the calculation with your technician. This can be useful. But in any case, our office, in particular at the beginning, can help you with this calculation. And then if you provide to Federico the basic information, we can make this calculation for you. The second calculation we can make for you is the one related to the possible substitution of normal reinforcement with our polymeric fibers. Once again, we need to collect the information, and then we can send you a list of questions where your designer or the customer can indicate the different kind of ground there is below the slab, information about the concrete strength, and also information about static and dynamic load. With all this information, our technicians are able to make the new design and then propose the substitution with our fibers and the correct dosage of fibers. And then, as a final step, we can send you a technical report with all the calculation to justify this substitution. Once again, obviously, the database below is Mapecrete property, but all the calculations are done according to an international guideline, that is the TR34, that is the more used calculation method for this kind of substitution.
Gianluca, quick question.
Yeah.
Currently, this service is only provided ex-Italy. We haven't got anyone in Asia Pacific currently doing it.
Not in my knowledge, Tommaso. I don't know if we have some calculation activity in Asia or not.
No, not at the moment. We work with the system without going deeper into calculations, extraction calculation.
But there's no internal barriers that says we can't share this and put some champion into Asia Pacific to run these calculations?
Well, for the concrete part, is enough to choose a good technician, a good concrete technician, who is able to understand the different points. For the fibers calculation, I think we need an engineer, a structural engineer.
You need to be familiar with at least the BS standards, both BS standards and ASTM, because there are countries that are using ASTM or basing their local standards on ASTM, and other countries that are based mostly on the British standard. So you need to cover, to have the knowledge of both systems, but I don't think they will vary.
But in terms of the software, step 2, so data collection I understand, but in terms of the running the program to design the floor, do you need that knowledge, or is that already built into the software?
No, he is built on the software, but to provide the right input and potentially to change something if the calculation is not acceptable, I can say, you need some structural knowledge. Yes. I thought the better would be to have an engineer, a structural engineer. I think in our team we have someone, or we can have someone, but I strongly suggest that we have an engineer, honestly.
Okay.
Okay, then after this point, Mapecrete System obviously is our best technology and probably can be quite far away from the normal standard application or the standard user in the different countries. But we can think about to propose in the market a kind of track to go from the standard situation and then the use of normal superplasticized plus fibers, having sorry,
Giá này không có rẻ.
the American units, but okay, here we are speaking about 30 square meters, more or less, and then we can propose a kind of premium solution using, in addition, the Mapecure SRA, going up to 300-400 square meters without joints, with an increase of $2-3 of euro per square meters, more or less. And then, as a third step, we can go to the full Mapecrete system. But this is just a proposal. We can decide to go ahead as you prefer. Then let's go through some references just to show you.
Gianluca, I think just that last point I think is really valid. That we can go to a client with alternatives rather than just one solution. So we can understand what his requirements are, what his needs are, and we can make different proposals depending upon the value that he wants. I think this is a really neat way of packaging up and improving the floor discussion. But if we don't have, instead of shooting for the stars all the time with Mapecrete, we have alternatives for it based on either budget and or final usage. So I think I like this. I actually like the fact that we've got 3 approaches.
In this way, in my opinion, we can be more effective. We can cover all the different needs, and we can also show to our customer that we are able to manage all the different situations. And then, yes, in any case, This is my proposal, and then if you agree, I'm honestly happy.
Guys, how does that sound to you? For your Vietnamese market, what do you think?
0.4 to 0.6 US dollar per square meter is not cheaper for Vietnam.
Now,
Yeah.
I know, but here we are not speaking about solutions to save money.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you want to have higher quality, you need to pay more at the beginning. But on the other hand, you must consider the advantages for the final customer.
Yes.
If you think about the big logistic center like Amazon or Alibaba or other, they have a very high rate, and then they need very flat surfaces. Otherwise, the forklift cannot go up to the top.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, they need a very flat surface without joint, because many of these forklifts are automated, are robot, and then with laser kind or this kind of thing. Think also about some kind of structure that are based on the rack, and also the roof, and then the structural part of the structure of the building is integrated into the rack. Here you need to have absolutely flat surfaces without movement and with an homogeneous distribution of the loads. Then this is the higher quality we want to propose. And after that, if you want to make also a calculation, you also need to make a comparison between our proposal and the standard one, for example, using a lot of normal reinforcement, because the steel today is a very high price. The workforce to apply the steel must be paid, and then at the end, the price increase is not so huge. And then, as a last point, your customer can trust in a floor that will not need heavy maintenance for 20, 30 years, while with normal joint, you need to work and to repair the joints every 10 years if you are lucky. And to repair the joints, quite often you need to stop your production. You need to clear the areas before to work. And then at the end, yes, there is some price increase, but not so huge if you think to all the advantages.
Yeah, Luca, it's Matt.
Yeah.
Thank you so far. I think what I'm doing for the other, let's say, product launches, let's call them that, I'm working on a value proposition first to understand how we're going to sell this. Because I think the guys in Vietnam have got a legitimate concern that how they're going to pitch this and who do they pitch it to. So I think it might be wise for you to send over all the calcs and all the bits and pieces. And when I'm back on my feet later this week, I can start working with you on a simple calculation tool plus value proposition slide deck that we can then ask the guys to see if this draws any interest. I'm doing the same with Sven Henrik on the recon line. We're trying to get a clear calculation of how much it's going to cost and how much it's going to save. I think Mapecrete is easier because there's less moving parts. But if we go to a concrete plant and try and sell this, we've got no chance. Yeah, this is something that needs to be sold to architects, designers, which is why you said at the start, somebody who is a design engineer is probably a good shout for this.
Yes. At the end of the presentation, presentation, if we have time, I can show you our Excel spreadsheet for this kind of calculation. With a comparison between a normal floor and jointless with or without finance. You will see it's a very easy Excel, and then you can play with quite. But in any case, I will send you at the end the presentation and also this Excel. This way you can check it and adapt it to the Asian use and needs. Okay.
That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Okay.
I think Mr. Hart.
I had something to ask that this of course we can go with some of FDI project and but I think they may ask for the warranty of Jointless.
Yes.
So what can we do?
Well, in Italy and in Europe in general, for this kind of application, we don't provide any kind of legal warranty. Okay, but I think that we can easily found an agreement with some insurance company to provide some guarantee, legal guarantee, as we do for example, for waterproofing in some countries. This in some market can be obviously a huge advantage. Probably in Italy or in the Nordics, where we are very successful with this system, the brand, I can say the Mapei brand, and then the level of trust we have on the market is so high that we normally don't need this kind of warranty. But yes, in some country, this can be a key point.
It's also something that you can do through good application management. So this is even if we work on the designers to get the system specified, we'll need some key applicators that we can work through to install the system. And then what's typical is you kind of have a back-to-back warranty with your applicator where we can guarantee that we can guarantee some form of performance from our product, saying that if they're applied in the way that we expect them to be applied, they're fit for purpose, and then the applicator guarantees their workmanship. So there's a number of ways that we can approach the warranty guarantee topic depending upon the market, but it has to be hand in glove with the applicator. We can't take the whole responsibility for product and application. So applicator management and picking of your applicators is a real key part of this journey to pick the right people to work with.
Yes, I agree. Just as an example, in Spain, where we probably provide 60% of the jointless flooring in the market, we have a very strong partnership with the 3 or 4 key applicators who are asking for our solution, are proposing our solution, and trustable for us, and we are sure they apply in the correct way. But yes, 100% agree. The better probably is a kind of joint warranty with our partner.
Yeah, that basically was what I wanted to say. We had not for Mapecrete System, for waterproofing, for the waterproofing administration in Malaysia, the experience where we were giving the warranty directly as Mapei. That was mainly because it was in the specification, so our customer, the contractor, wanted us to do that. It can be done in case you have very high potential sales, very high value, and you must be very accurate in the calculation of the risk, because the consequences of wrong calculation can be quite painful.
For sure, but I think it can be managed in some way. Okay, can I go ahead?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, I was not hearing nothing and then. Okay, then let's go quickly through some reference that also help us to highlight the key point I was explaining before. The first big job site I would show is obviously an in-house reference, is our NVIDIA plant with an extension of NVIDIA plant. We did this job site in 2007, and then was officially the first big job site with this technology, where more or less 10,000 square meters of floor. Here you have an example of mixed design. In this case, we were working with steel fibers, because at that time we were not yet active polymeric field. And here you can see some highlight of what I told before. Here it's important to create the correct construction joint, and we strongly suggest, for example, to use this double metal layer with this hook to be very well bonded with the slab. In this way, using this kind of joint, the two slabs can move horizontally, but they cannot have vertical movement, relative movement. As I told before, it's really important to isolate the fixed part, again, walls, etc. For the pillars, we introduced this kind of round joint all around the pillar, connected or not, depends on the situation with the construction joint. In this way, also if you have some small crack on the corner of the pillar, that is quite normal to have, this crack will not pass the joint, because if the crack joint arrives at the metal slab, the tension will be dissipated by this curve slab. Another key point that was the right flatness and to have the right also water penetration in the concrete. We strongly suggest the application by laser strip. In that situation, okay, we were working with the two laser strip because the timing was quite tight, but okay, at least one machine. And then I strongly suggest to make all the controls during the application. Here, the guy with the yellow t-shirt was me. And we spent a couple of weeks job site from 5 o'clock in the morning till the end of the job. Okay. Another key point is the organization of the team of the applicator. Why? Because working in this way without with big surfaces can happen that you are still applying and pouring concrete, but on the other hand, you need to go on and to smooth the surface, not to apply the dry shake and start surface going with you. We call it helicopter, I don't know in Asia, but and then we need two teams, one in charge for the pouring and the application of the concrete, and the second one in charge for the smoothing. This is important. And then, as I was telling before, we applied this kind of no-room tissue. We fulfill with water, and then we cover it with plastic. And then we went in holiday for 2 weeks. It was easy because it was August, and in Italy, everybody goes in holiday in August, but this is the better way to provide the right quality. And this is an example of the final result. You can see here the joint, the round joint around the pillar in connection with the different construction joint of the different slab. But the round joint can work also if the pillar, like this one, is in the middle of the slab. In this way, you can avoid the cracks also in this very critical situation. But in general, the design and real dimension of the slab must be checked with the geometry of the slab. Just to give you a very stupid example. If we create a square slab 30 meters by 30 meters, means 900 square meters, is quite easy. I mean, it's a square without problem, and then I don't expect problem. But if you have the same 900 meters in a street, 900 meters long and 1 meter wide, doesn't matter what kind of admixture we use, you will have for sure a lot of crack. And then the geometry of the slab is really important. Okay, theoretically the ideal one to be a square, but also if we go to a rectangular shape, let's try to stay in a ratio between the two dimensions of 1.3 max. Okay. Another huge and nice reference, once again in 2007, was the ice arena in Minsk, in Belarus. 13,000 square meters in only 2 slabs. The first one was the hockey playground, something like 5,000 square meters, and the second one was the ring. Was relatively easy to produce a jointless concrete because we used the cooling pipes as reinforcement, and they placed something like 140 kilometers of cooling pipes, and then we produced concrete with also steel fibers, and then at the end, this is the result. The pouring time was around 13 hours per slab and 20 hours to close the working session without break. So, then once again,
Có mấy cái này nhai đi nhai lại xuống mà.
team must be at the top, I can say. Then the Enzo Ferrari Museum in Modena, very close to the house where Enzo Ferrari born. In this case, they decided to use our solution because the shape of the design of the structure was particular because it's all up and down with a lot of tools, etc. And then it was not easy to design the joint. And then at the end, our proposal of Jointless was example of ink design, and this was the final result. To be honest, on the surface we applied some polyurethane coating, Mapei, but was quite nice. I remember when we went there for the first time, we were looking like a very stupid people, because with all this such a car around, we were looking the floor searching for cracks. But, and then with one of the biggest probably application we did in the last years is a logistics center in the Netherlands. The total surface was 200,000 square meters. And here you can see a picture of what I say, the ideal organization of job site, with a team placing the reinforcement, a team placing the concrete, the machine to smooth the surface, and the machine to apply the dry shake automatically and immediately. In this way, can be really homogeneous the distribution of the material, and will be much easier to incorporate and to smooth later. This is another feature of the main building. This building was 200 meters wide and 400 meters long. And then some smaller, I can say, reference. This one is the Lamborghini plant where the Urus SUV is produced, obviously close to Modena, and this is the picture of the final result. Here, just to give you some name of the main customer, or the main, yes, the main company who decided to use our solution. Also, if it can be a bit more expensive than the normal. And that's it.
Firstly, thank you for that. What I wanted to bring up, because I know we concerned a little bit when we saw the price point, you were a little bit concerned. What you've seen is a list of truly international clients that are more interested in quality rather than price per square meter, because they'll be looking at a functional product for their warehouses. So I think that we shouldn't be looking, or we should be looking at premium clients to engage on this rather than every warehouse, for instance, that we see popping up around the country. So the client base for me is a really, really strong selling point, that they've listened to the arguments, they understand what they need, and clearly what we've got is some track references that are very, very strong. So for instance, IKEA are active obviously all across Asia Pacific, Amazon are, and so on. So they're the ideal people to start talking to.
If you want, just to introduce, and then later on you can play with, as I was saying, I would share the calculation here. Here we can play a bit with the cost assessment of our different solutions. I think, Ross, most probably your Excel would be much better than mine, but
I wouldn't say that. It probably looks better, but intellectually it's probably going to be more stupid. Just like me, I guess.
now, okay, just briefly, and then I told you I would send you, and then you can play with. weight, but the calculation are not changing. I mean, you can put here the price of 1 cubic meter of normal concrete for floor, then without the Mapecrete, without the SRA. Then here we can decide, we can put the dimension, not the square meters of the floor and the thickness, and then we will have the total cubic meters and the total cost of our concrete, normal concrete. On the other hand, we make the same cubic meter cost plus the admixture cost of the same surface and same quantities. Obviously, if you stop here, can be a problem, no? Because the price is much higher. But if you go ahead, you can see, for example, you can make here the calculation of the different traditional reinforcement. Then you can choose according with the local habits and use the different kind of mesh. You can decide to use single or double layer. You can put here the cost of the wire mesh. Probably today it's much higher than €1 per kg, but okay. Then you can put here the cost to apply, to put in place the wire mesh, and then the support for the wire mesh, and at the end you have here the cost of your mesh reinforcement. On the other hand, we can, if we go ahead, for example, with fiber, and the calculation, the structural calculation allow us to go ahead with, we can decide, we can put here 0, I mean, without mesh. And then on this part you have €170,000 of cost of the reinforcement, and on the left side of, sorry, on the right side in our solution the cost will be 0. But then we need to put in the cost of our fibers. And then, I don't know, we can say €8 per kg with 3 kg per cubic. This can be an hypothesis. I don't know if it's, no, sorry, it is the steel fiber. Okay, yeah. And then we can make here the comparison, no, between the normal steel reinforcement and our proposal with the fibers. Then here we need to make the calculation for the cutting of the joints, and here obviously it will be 0. And then at the end, if we are able to substitute the normal reinforcement with our polymer fibers, you'll see at the end the cost per square meter can be the same. Okay? And then after that we need to think very well about these advantages. I mean, how to distribute these advantages, because we are speaking about pure cost. We are not speaking about the margins for applicator, ready-mix plant, etc. But theoretically, we can propose a solution that is not so far from the normal prices, with margins, good margins, both for they and also our partners. This is just a very quick and rough calculation, but Some other question or doubt?
We don't have any question yet, but we have one project that we have to discuss, and then after discuss with the designer and owner, if anything else, we will ask.
Yes.
Because of we
practical assistance, both with the mix design preparation and with the fibers calculation, you can ask me or Tommaso without any problem, and then we will work together with our internal engineers to make the proposal.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for your time and for your.
Just a question maybe for you guys. Is this because you think you've got a particular project where it might be useful?
To make the proposal.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Just a question maybe for you guys. Then. I mean, is this because you think you've got a particular project where it might be useful, or do you see this as a value-added system that you could develop and promote throughout Vietnam?
This FDI project is a very high requirement, and even they require for almost all green product. High premium project. So I mentioned that the price affect a lot for Vietnam requirements, so we just selected project. Sorry, we focus on FDI or high-end, high premium project only. Just selected project.
But my question really was: is this a one-off, or do you see this as a sustainable growth business for you in your market?
In my opinion, not at the moment. Just selected project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, the team in Italy are there to help you have a look at the information and work out what it is. How can we support you further to get hold of this project and try and secure it? If we pick one up, there's every likelihood that we can grow that and pick another one up once we've got a local reference. But what do we need to do to follow up? Do we wait for you guys to come back with some questions, or should we have another call in, Matt? What your idea is in a week, 10 days, something like that?
Yeah, I'd like to do a couple of things. I'd like to understand a little bit about what the opportunities are, a little bit of history. If the guys have got any opportunity, I know you guys are busy, just to have a think or make a few calls to see if this would fly. In the meantime, anyway, I think I need to get the Excel from Gianluca, understand it myself, and my head's a bit clearer, and then see if we can put a value proposition together, basically a kind of a sales pitch, and understand who that sales pitch has to go to, and then have a look at Gianluca's tool to understand how we could push this over the line. And I think you're right. I think we can get, if we get some of the big boys, big international players, of which we have some references with, that would be a good starting point.
Good.
Maybe even BSF are building a new factory somewhere. I need a nice new floor.
That'd be good.
Okay, before the end of the day, I will send you the PDF of the presentation and the Excel.
We need the list of the data.
And then, as we told, if you need help for any kind of calculation, please ask me and Tommaso, and we will try to help you the better possible.
We need the list of the data collecting from for your calculation.
Sorry?
Okay, thank you. The data collecting.
Yes, I will send you also the PDF with the data required for the fibers calculation. Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay.
Thanks,
Do you
guys.
mind to stay
Bye.
3 minutes? Okay.
Me as well? Did you say me or not?
No, just Cameron is about UK. No problem.
All right.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
All
Cheers,
right, catch
guys.
up.
See you soon.
Bye bye. Ciao.
Ciao.
Okay.